Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast, your go-to source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We hope you tune in often for all things people management, organizational development and change, organizational leadership, and social impact related. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with Human Capital Innovations Podcast. Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. In this HCI podcast episode, I talk with Ken Danos about the role of attitude in leading self and others. Kenneth Danos, welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me today, John.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you. I'm super excited to have this conversation. And today we're going to be focusing on the role of attitude in leading self and others. And of course, our attitude makes a huge difference in how we interact with the world. So many people find themselves in difficult circumstances, and I don't want to diminish the reality of the hard things that people are dealing with. Everyone has their different trials and their different difficulties. And I also acknowledge that I come from a place of privilege. I have all sorts of privileges. And so maybe it's easy for me to talk about just, have a good attitude, and whatnot. But the reality is attitude does make a difference. And I have some things I want to share in relation to that in terms of some of the research I've done. But you bring a life of experience and wisdom and insight. I'm super excited to hear your thoughts on this and get your perspective. As we get started, I wanted to share Kenneth's bio with everybody. Kenneth Danos is a military veteran and entrepreneur. He began his military career at 18 years old. He served as a parachute rigger, civil affairs specialist, and an aeromedical evacuation officer in the U.S. Army. He has served on numerous operational and combat deployments in many countries, including Iraq and Afghanistan. Ken has served in leadership positions from the small team level to company level as a military commander. During his time, he inspired, coached, and mentored hundreds of leaders. Ken dedicated himself to personal and professional growth for himself and made it his mission to inspire others to grow. Over time, Ken's passion for helping others grow manifested into starting a company for that purpose. Ken and his partner started Project Attitude to transform lives of others through constant professional growth. Project Attitude currently offers over 50 internationally accredited courses in high demand functional areas. That is tremendous. So wonderful. Is there anything else you would like to share with listeners by way of your background before we dive on in further?
Yeah, a small typo or pronunciation there. Project Altitude is the name of our business, but I may have.
Oh, I'm sorry. Project Altitude.
Definitely, when you say attitude is key, that's something that's resonated with me since the beginning. As a leader, since I became a leader. So that's a great. Those are almost synonymous there. So I could see where that, could link up attitude and altitude. You fix your attitude, you raise your altitude,
Yeah, I like it. And
maybe,
there's some sort of bias going on in the back of my brain that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What's that? The reticular activating system. That's what I see now. I see attitude everywhere. But I think that's a good topic. But yeah, military veteran, very close, over 19 years in. So, looking at transitioning out in the near future, and trying to take some of my experience and the passion that I've developed seeing people grow. So in the military, as you get to promote people, you get to give them awards, pats on the back, coins, etc. It just it's one of the best feelings in the world. So why not develop a company around being able to develop people and see them grow, throughout their life. Dr. Morbido and I are always committed to growing ourselves. We chase after a lot of different challenges, and we want to just continue to grow. So we wanted to help other people do that as well in any way we could. And this is one way that we've started doing that.
Yeah, wonderful. And maybe can you describe a little bit more for us Project Altitude, and the connection to attitude that you see? Clearly, in my mind, there's a connection there. Yeah. So why did you start the project? And clearly, you're offering many really great programs and classes in relation to this, to help individuals as they're trying to go through their own career development.
Right. Yeah. So to give you kind of a genesis story, just over the past couple of years, I've committed to doing something, teaching some type of leadership course, et cetera. I wanted to develop this and, make it my own and start teaching leadership. I do it on the, in the military perspective, coaching junior leaders and developing them. But as far as out into the commercial world, I wanted to develop something and bring it out. And pretty much at the same time, I run into my college friend. We met each other at Murray State University. If we got anybody out there, go Racers. It's a small place, but it's nice. One of my, so Dr. Morabito, we met in college. Didn't really talk or see much. We saw a little bit of each other at Fort Campbell at the 101st. But we ended up being back together again at this new location that we were working at. And he just came to my office one day and was like, I want to teach Lean Six Sigma, and I think we'd be good together to do this together. So I was like, yes, absolutely. So my ideas and his ideas kind of joined, and it grew into this. So our main focuses were Lean Six Sigma, and now one of our newest program that we brought on board, we're an authorized training partner for the Resilience Building Leader Program. It's basically one of the few actually credentialed leadership certifications that you get out there. I'm not sure if you've heard of that one yet, but it's fairly new as far as credentialing goes. But it's a really good program focusing on collective resilience. We try to teach individual resilience throughout the military and as leaders, but collectively to build cohesive teams, we need that, collective and team resilience to work together.
Yeah, I love it. And resilience is certainly important. And there are all these different skills and competency sets that we need to be effective in the new world of work. And so all these trainings that you're providing, it's tremendous. And bringing back, so the Altitude Project, this I love that term. It's all about how we want to try to raise ourselves, raise those around us. And so much of that does then come back to the attitude that we bring to the table when we're trying to go about our careers, as we're trying to lead our lives, lead others, and develop the next generation of leaders to ultimately take our place when we leave the company or when we progress, and that they can follow behind us. All of that, I think, is just really important to consider and how to do that more effectively. And I want to get more of your thoughts on attitude here in just a moment. But one of the things I was thinking, in preparation for this, I was thinking about attitudes a lot. And I do a lot of research myself. Listeners of the podcast know I'm a scholar practitioner. I'm a university professor. I do consulting. I do this podcast on the side. I love research. I do a lot of comparative international work in my research. And one of the things I look at are international differences in employee attitudes and behaviors as they relate to, job characteristics, leadership, worker satisfaction, and employee engagement. And one of the things that's fascinating to me is that attitude plays a huge role, because there are places around the world that are demonstrably better conditions than other places. So when I'm interviewing people from, what might be considered the global South or a third world country, and their working conditions aren't great, and there's a lot of challenges that they face that, say, someone in a Western European country or in the US might face, right? What's so interesting to me is that even though the objective working conditions may be worse,
Mm-hmm.
the attitudes and therefore the outcomes of the workers within those conditions vary widely. And so you may have people in objectively better working conditions that have worse attitudes, people in objectively worse working conditions that have better attitudes. And regardless of the actual working conditions, those attitudes dictate more about a whole wide range of organizational outcomes, either for better or for worse. And so the question is why? Like, what is it about people in different circumstances, where some, just have a crummy attitude, others have really great attitudes, even perhaps when, most onlookers would say, you shouldn't be happy with where you're working because it sucks.
Yeah.
That persists, that persists over time and space, that reality. And we all know people in our own personal lives who are like that, who, they may come from a really underprivileged background. They may have the deck stacked against them. They have so many challenges that they face, yet they're just a happy person, someone who takes on those challenges with a smile, someone, like you said, who's resilient, and then others who just seem to fold at the first sign of difficulty. What is it
Mhm.
about someone's attitude and the way that they connect with the world, the way they frame the world around them, that leads to this? I'm excited to announce the publication of my new book from HCI Press, Bluer Than Indigo Leadership: The Journey of Becoming a Truly Remarkable Leader. Early in my adult life, I learned about an Asian proverb that translates as bluer than indigo. If you think about the color indigo, it is a brilliant, deep, and vibrant blue, what some would call the bluest of blues. To have something that is bluer than indigo is rare and truly remarkable. Contrary to popular myth, there is no one-size-fits-all or cookie-cutter approach to effective leadership. There's no silver bullet, no secret sauce, no go-to model that will solve all of our problems. The truth is, great leaders have all had their unique strengths and flaws, and have all had to discover and then pave their own distinctive path in their life's journey to fulfill their leadership potential. Bluer Than Indigo Leadership will help you discover your own path and explore those ordinary, everyday actions that will help you respond to an uncertain future and produce extraordinary results for individuals, teams, and organizations.
Yeah, so it kind of brings, I have about three things in my mind that I was thinking of as you were talking, but just, historically speaking, from my experience in the military, like I said earlier, I heard early in my career, attitude is everything. It was hard to understand at first, but now every time I give an initial counseling, initial briefing to someone I lead, that's in my counseling. Attitude is everything. And it's not so simple to just state it and they understand it and that's it, it's over. Now they're going to be great. But you have to think about what does that mean? What are some resources or some other ways to say it? And one of the books that I always go back to when I think about where you should start from is Jocko Willink's book. What's that called? Extreme Ownership. That's it. Yeah, Extreme Ownership. So I think one of the assets or aspects of attitude that people, if you want to get a in-depth explanation of one of the aspects of attitude, I think you look at extreme ownership. Owning everything that happens to you, around you, with you, because of you. Everything in life happens for you, not to you. I think it just gives people a different perspective. It's the ownership versus the victim mentality. Either this is happening to me, or look at it a different way. This opportunity is presented to me. This challenge, this opportunity is here for me to grow. You're given challenges. You're given all these difficulties to bring out something in you, to help you grow. Everything. You have to think that everything like that has a purpose. Some of us intentionally put ourselves in those situations to see what comes of it. We enter into those challenging jobs. We take those challenging projects, those challenging assignments that we're really uncomfortable with. But trying to use that attitude of, I want to grow from this. I know this is meant for me. I know it's challenging, but that just means something good's about to happen if I feel that challenge. And the third aspect of it, I think, is a lot of business books talk about values. We want to make sure you have our values before you come into our organization. And if you really think about it, attitude is kind of another word to sum up, these values that the organizations talk about. If an organization talks about, we like constant improvement, we like, trust, you need to be trustworthy. We like teamwork. All of that can be encompassed under the umbrella of your attitude, what type of person you are going into it. So those are kind of some of the things I was thinking of about attitude.
Yeah, I think that's great. And ultimately, the nice thing about attitude is we largely have a choice in how we respond to our circumstances. We often don't have a choice around our circumstances. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, and often we don't. And so we may find ourselves in less than ideal circumstances. We may find ourselves in situations that are unfair. We may very well find ourselves in inequitable systems, places where, we have to deal with prejudices, bigotry, other things like that. All of those things are reality for many people. Those are hard things, and I don't want to downplay those or try to suggest that those aren't hard. We don't get to choose the circumstances we're in, but we do get to choose how we respond to those circumstances. And I think it's perfectly healthy to be upset sometimes, to have frustrations and to acknowledge those frustrations. And we need people who are passionate about disrupting inequitable systems, and so we can improve the world around us. All of that's important. But what we don't want to do is find ourselves ruminating on the negative things in our lives, the negative things around us, and that being our sole focus and how we go about living our life. If that does become our sole focus, that's not going to lead to action either. We're just going to be constantly angry, frustrated, and it's not going to inspire action in our personal lives. It's not going to inspire action around us. What we need to do is, while acknowledging the realities of the difficulties that we face, we need to then decide how do we want to approach this? What opportunity could be hidden within this hardship, within this challenge that I'm facing? And that's really what resilience is all about. If we have someone with determination and grit, they're willing to take on those hard things, and they're willing to frame them as growth opportunities, and to recognize that even though it's difficult now, in the future, I'm going to have a chance to learn, to grow, to develop, and to be better situated for future opportunities. And sometimes the current opportunity isn't something that I want long term, but if I do it now, and if I deal with it, I put up with it, I put in my time, and I learn from the opportunity in front of me, that unlocks the door for other future opportunities that may be unforeseen at the current stage that I'm in. So it's not to say that, we should put ourselves in horrible situations, stay in horrible jobs, stay under a jerk boss, stay in an abusive relationship or an abusive marriage. Like, I'm not suggesting any of that. But what I am suggesting is, within, while we recognize the need to maintain our physical and mental health, that we also recognize that our framings matter. Our framings matter a lot. And if I can recognize opportunities and then leverage my capacity to lean into those opportunities to accomplish something, then ultimately I will be in a better situation than what I am now. And that may be incremental. It may take longer than I would hope, but over time I will be able to find myself in a better situation. And I think that's the power behind what we're talking about. Ultimately, I want to make the world a better place. I want my family to have better opportunities than I have. I want the people I work with, the people I lead, to grow and develop and to become, to find their full potential and to live up to it. I want them to have the opportunity to live tremendous lives of fulfillment and meaning and purpose. That will only happen as I bring a positive attitude into the work that I do, as I try to make the most of the circumstances I have and to try to improve those circumstances to the ability that I have.
Yeah. For me, when I think about, you said the word framing, and that just brings up something my leadership coach would say all the time. Well, how can we frame this? Every time I would bring up something to him, how can we frame this? Framing is big, and I would say, a lot of people say, well, just adjust your attitude, and somebody would say, well, I can't. That's just how I react. That's understandable, and self-leadership is the key. And if that's hard for us, we start small, start with changing one story in our head. And if you can't really convince yourself, start with affirmations, and as you talk, you can talk yourself into believing something. I've been in the Army for 19 years. There's a term called false motivation. It's what you do to show motivation initially before you actually internalize it and understand where that motivation should be coming from. So I would say that was just an affirmation that I was repeating in my head for different things, different events, different things that happened to me, that now it's true. It's true motivation. When we talk about doing something out in the cold, in the wet, something hard, I get excited, I get motivated about it. So I get kind of the same way with challenges at work now. When someone walks into my office and says, oh, we got a problem, I'm like, all right, what is it? So I get excited about it. But if you're having trouble starting out, a leadership coach is definitely where it's at. And I know you offer coaching services, I believe, as well. But that's definitely a great place to start if you can't walk yourself into that personally. The best people in the world have coaches. The best athletes, the best of everything have coaches. You can't do it alone. Get a coach. A second part to that is, as I was studying leadership, I kept focusing on a leader focused, top down kind of teaching and coaching, mentoring. But sometimes we can focus on that too much, and we forget about the bottom up self-leadership, and the resilience, like we talked about, the resilience of the person to be able to work with any leader. I want to teach every leader to work with every person, and I want to teach every person to work with every leader. There's a dichotomy there that I started realizing, as early as last year, that I needed to adjust to make things better, at least where I work. Those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Ken, it has just been a pleasure. I note the time. I need to let you get back to your busy day. But before we close, I wanted to give you a chance to share with listeners how they can get connected with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us a final word on the topic for today.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me today, John. If you want to check out Project Altitude, you can go to projectaltitude.us, not the .com, .us, America. All right. And if you want to email us, info at projectaltitude.us. We have over 50 courses there. You can take most of them completely online, get your certification there, or you could also schedule with us, and we'll do some group training, in-person training, etc. And last word of the day on attitude. Attitude is everything, and you can determine that attitude.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ken. It has been a pleasure. I encourage listeners to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Ken and his team can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe. They can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. The alchemy of truly remarkable leadership. Ordinary, everyday actions that produce extraordinary results. Consider how the nature of work has shifted over the past 50 years. With increased globalization, rapid technological advancement, and the shift in economic composition, the average job of today looks very different than the average job of 50 years ago. What will the jobs and organizations of tomorrow look like? Moreover, what does this all mean for organizational leaders? What are the core competencies and capabilities of organizations and their leadership that are prepared for continued disruption and geopolitical and socioeconomic shifts? Regardless of what the future holds, increasingly, leaders need to be socially minded, data-driven, decisive, champions of talent, and disruptors of the traditional notions of leadership, teams, organizations, and work. The alchemy of truly remarkable leadership will help you to explore your own leadership competencies and capabilities and consider ways to apply and implement them into your workplace and personal life. Check out Human Capital Innovations magazine, Human Capital Leadership. Human Capital Leadership is a free, interactive e-magazine with the mission to help individuals, leaders, and organizations find innovative approaches to maximize their human capital potential. We publish issues quarterly in August, November, February, and May. Take a look at the latest issue and let us know what you think. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. I hope you stay healthy and safe and that you have a great week.